What is up, YouTube? So, allegedly, Wade Wilson has filed a lawsuit after getting his death sentence. So, we've got a crazy video to react to. This one's by the Long Crime Network. Shout out to them. They give some of the best coverage on criminal cases, true crime, anything like that. So go ahead and give them a subscription like I just did. They deserve it. Great, great, great YouTube channel. This video is called TikTok. Famous killer Wade Wilson files lawsuit after getting death sentence. Oof, this should be good. We all know that Wade and the Wade wives and all of them have been working overtime to make sure Wade has nice suits, to make sure Wade has honey buns, to make sure they're scamming all kinds of people out of money so he could have a big legal defense and cost the taxpayer and the state all kinds of money. Great guy. Anyways, we got this video to react to. We all know it's going to be a banger. Let's get into it.
To 2, that Wade Wilson should be sentenced to death.
A Florida man who was sentenced to death last month for the shocking murders of 2 women is making headlines once again, now setting his sights on the state attorney's office and Lee County Sheriff's Office. So let's go back to the beginning. Wade Wilson received the ultimate punishment for the brutal and horrific October 2019 murders of Christine Melton and Diane Ruiz. Prosecutors say the tatted killer murdered Christine and Diane just for the sake of killing.
Christine Melton was 35 years old when she died. She was found in her South Cape Coral residence, wrapped in some bedding, tied with some shirts and leggings and a bathing suit top. Her face was black and blue. Her fingernails were broken. She had marks around her neck as she lied on the floor between her bedroom and the kitchen area of her residence. Diane Ruiz was 43 years old. She was found on an empty lot, under some shrubs, under a tree, just lying there. Her nose had been broken. Her hyoid bone and thyroid cartilage had been broken. She had suffered multiple rib fractures, not only front, but also in the back. Now, what you're going to learn during the course of this trial, ladies and gentlemen, is that Ms. Ruiz and Ms. Melton had 3 things in common. Both of them died on the 7th of October of 2019. Both of them had been strangled. And both of them, before they were forever silenced, the last person that they encountered was Mr. Wade Wilson.
While behind bars, Wilson continued to rack up.
I gotta say, look at his face. This is a man who has absolutely no remorse. Not only is he in the calls laughing hysterically all the time at his victims, making fun of the people who give him money and calling them ugly, and then showing absolutely no remorse in court. Like, you wonder why you're getting the death penalty. I think he's added the tattoos here too, because why so serious? I don't remember the ha ha ha. I think that's new, and this looks like it's been blackened a bit more since the last time I saw a picture. But, you know, who knows? I don't know what to say. This man needs to start showing some remorse real quick.
Wilson.
While behind bars, Wilson continued to rack up charges. He had cases for attempted meth trafficking and even an attempt to escape from jail. Since his 2019 arrest, he even began sporting a more menacing look with heavier tattoos, including a swastika, a tattoo under his chin that reads "Bread for War," and an infamous Joker smile, just to name a few. But during trial, he didn't even bother to cover up his tattoos. And the trial was quick. only lasting a couple of days. Several witnesses took the stand for his trial.
I just want to say, how would he cover up his tattoos? He's just gonna wear like a full mask over his whole face? He can't really cover them up.
Some notable testimony came from Wilson's father, who revealed his son made a shocking confession.
I want to go back to that dinner time call. When he talked about these two people who were no longer with us and that he was a killer, did he show any type of remorse?
No, ma'am.
So let's go now to the 10 o'clock call. Again, your wife knew about kind of what was going on during that day.
Yes, ma'am.
And when he called back at 10, did he go into...
Who's this one? I know. Listen, maybe I'm wrong. This one here's got colored hair. Looks mad. She's sitting on the same side as Wade. Which one of the Wade supporters is this? If it's not, I'm sorry. This is like a Wade supporter to me, bro. Look like a Wade supporter. Who is this?
more details about what he had told you?
Yeah,
about?
she give. Yeah, it's a Wade supporter. Look at her face.
Yes, ma'am.
So let's start with the first girl. If you could tell the jurors, what did he tell you?
He just said he met a girl at a bar. They went back to her house, hung out for a little bit, and then she fell asleep.
What did he say happened after she fell asleep?
He said he got on top of her and choked her.
What name did he call her? Did he refer to her in a derogatory term?
He said, I choked that.
Okay. And what did he say he did after he choked her?
He said he stayed in the house for a little while, and then he rolled her up and was going to try to put her in her trunk, but he couldn't lift her.
Did he say why he was unable to put her in her trunk?
He said that he felt like rigor mortis had started to set in.
And does rigor mortis make your body stiff? You didn't know?
I think so. Yeah.
So he just told you that that was the reason that he couldn't lift her and get her into her trunk?
Yes, ma'am.
And when he said her trunk, it was the trunk of her car he was going to put her in?
Yes, ma'am.
So what did he tell you he did when he couldn't get her body into her own trunk?
He left her there and took her car.
What did he say about the second girl?
He said he saw her walking down the street and stopped and asked her for directions. And she got in the car with him.
What did he say happened once she got in the car with him?
He said he reached over and choked her.
And did he tell you that he choked her while he was driving?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, what did he say happened after he choked her?
He said he was looking for a place to put her body.
Did he find a place where he eventually dumped her body?
Yes, ma'am.
What did he tell you about the situation when he got to the place where he was going to dump her body?
He said that he pulled her out of the car and realized that she was still breathing.
So what did he tell you he did when he realized she's still breathing?
He said he got back in the car and ran her over until she looked like spaghetti.
And while the case was never a whodunit case, but a why did they do it case, Wilson's defense attorney claimed he committed the brutal slayings because he was out of his mind.
We're not arguing he didn't do it. There's solid evidence that he is responsible for those two deaths and the battery of Miss Montanez. But Miss Montanez's testimony, you need to think about that, whether this was premeditated in terms, I mean, Miss Melton had sex with him. He could have just gotten up and left or stayed with her. Instead, he murders her. That's not clear thinking, shall we say. I'm not arguing insanity. I'm just arguing that the state's claiming premeditation, and I'm saying he's whacked out. He's just out of his mind.
So you're not claiming insanity, but you're claiming he was just whacked out and he was out of his mind. That doesn't really... You're not doing a very good job as a lawyer. You just really contradicted yourself. I'm going to speak on this real quick, right? So when I was 16, I shattered the side of my face and got like a I don't know what it's called in English. I got a concussion, but I also got something else. I don't know what it's called in English, but it's like brain damage, right? So if you scanned my brain 100% right now, you can see that there is 100% without a doubt brain damage. I have to get an MRI every few years, and it's there. Like, it's there, right? Now, I have a hard time, right, using that as an excuse for doing something like this, especially when you took drugs, right? So you put yourself in an altered state of mind, and then, yeah, you probably were whacked out. You probably did. Wade probably had a psychological break, right? And you do lose control when those happen. But he's responsible for putting himself there, and where he's really hurt himself is by having no remorse, okay? Let's say I have a psychological break and I do something crazy like this. I'm gonna feel horrible after. Even if, like, when it happened, I wasn't in control, I don't even remember when it happened, I'm gonna feel horrible after. Horrible that I did that, right? And I'm gonna be so remorseful. I'm gonna be apologizing to everyone. Like, my defense might be I wasn't in control at the time, but, like, I didn't want to do that. I'm like, I'd at least have remorse, right? So it's like, for me, it's really hard that he doesn't have remorse. Like, nobody's gonna feel bad for you, like, and then you're going on these jail calls, right? Now, you can just have a break in the one instance, but most people don't understand that. They don't look at that. So they're going to look at your overall behavior, and if you're going on the phone, you're manipulating people, you're scamming people out of all this money, talking crap behind their back, got all these games going, strategizing for your honey buns, like, bro, just give me a break, man. You did this, at least have some responsibility and stop trying to blame everybody but yourself. You did drugs, you weren't sober. You did drugs that you knew were probably bad drugs. Like, come on, man. All right. That was a little long, I know. Let's go.
For any of this.
But for the Florida jurors, it would only take just about 2 hours of deliberations to find him guilty of first-degree murder for the deaths of Christine Melton and Diane Ruiz. And during the penalty phase of the trial, it would take jurors only 90 minutes before giving their recommendation for death. After his sentencing, Wilson continued to make headlines, first for the thousands of letters women sent to him even after his conviction, and now for his civil lawsuit against the Lee County Sheriff's Office and the state attorney's office. In documents obtained by Law and Crime, the suit names the plaintiffs as Wade Wilson and Jesse Tehanika. Tehanika's connection to Wilson isn't exactly clear, but it's been rumored she's the killer's girlfriend. The reason for this civil lawsuit is also unclear because the files are confidential under seal. But would a Reddit post reveal more?
From the phone calls from prison, Wade got a lot of girls he's calling his girlfriend, so I don't know.
More into why the two are suing the state attorney's office and sheriff's office. According to a post which states the Reddit poster obtained the state attorney's response to the lawsuit, the suit allegedly stems from the release of Wilson's recorded jailhouse calls. And the state attorney's office allegedly responded to the suit saying, after a thorough review by LCSO's public records units and social media platforms managed by LCSO, no evidence has been found to indicate the release of any such calls by LCSO except through standard investigative and prosecutorial channels for LCSO remains responsible under the law. It is apparent that any publicized calls involving the move-ins were shared by third parties over whom LCSO has no control. This undermines the assertion that LCSO is responsible for these releases. But from what we can confirm now from court documents we've obtained, under remedies sought, it says they are seeking non-monetary declaratory or injunctive relief, meaning a court order that prohibits or requires specific action. Under the filing, it says the case is not a class action lawsuit and they aren't seeking a jury trial. Well, this is an excellent time now to bring on former prosecutor Melba Pearson. Melba, always so great to see you. Now, a lot is unclear at this moment, but what's your reaction to a convicted double murderer, that being Wade Wilson, suing the Lee County Sheriff's Office and the state attorney's office?
Yeah, so Elizabeth, always great to be on with you. This is a bit of a bizarre turn of events because usually when you see someone who has been convicted of such serious charges has now been sentenced to the death penalty, you would see the traditional appeals process begin. So basically, the defense counsel for the defendant will file an appeal for a number of grounds. Maybe they didn't feel the trial was fair. Maybe they felt certain items of evidence were inadmissible. Maybe they felt the jury instructions were read incorrectly by the judge. Whatever the grounds may be, they usually file an appeal. And usually the appeals process is not something that's resolved overnight. It's multiple years. You're looking 5, 7, maybe even 10 years of the appeals process as, first you appeal from the trial court to your next highest court. It varies, of course, in every state. Then you may end up going up to, the Florida Supreme Court looking for relief. You may now try to transition into the federal system and try to get the U.S. Supreme Court to maybe hear your case and stay your execution. So this is kind of a long trajectory post-trial. So it's a little surprising that he's now also filing a civil lawsuit against the prosecutor's office as well as the sheriff's department. Now, what's very interesting here is that since it's a civil lawsuit, he's not looking for monetary damages. He's looking for injunctive relief, which basically means you're preventing someone, the judge would make a ruling, preventing one party from doing a particular course of action. So my guess would be, again, since nothing is publicly available as to the actual grounds of the civil lawsuit, my guess would be that it was to stay his execution until there's some sort of resolution in terms of maybe he's accusing the state attorney's office of wrongful or malicious prosecution. Maybe he's trying to sue the police department for wrongful arrest or wrongful detainment. Not quite sure where he thinks he'll go with that because, again, there was plenty of evidence showing that he was guilty of the crimes that he committed and that it didn't seem to be that either entity was targeting him. So again, I'm not quite sure what the injunctive relief would be, as in, okay, well, don't execute him yet. Well, if you're going through the appeals process, you wouldn't be executed anyway until all your appeals have been exhausted, meaning that entire process, you've gone to every single court, they've all told you no, and now you're going to have a date set for execution. So I almost feel like it's premature unless there's something more to the pleadings that, again, none of us are aware of. Because
Okay, I want to just add to that because she's really she knows what the law. I think she's an attorney or a prosecutor. I forget what they said at the beginning, but she knows that stuff. I've been analyzing Wade Wilson for a while, and I'm pretty sure I know why he's doing this. One, he's fucking delusional, and all these girls that are with him are delusional and filling his head with all this stuff. He truly thinks he's gonna get out one day. He thinks that he's going to do all these things. He's been wronged and he's going to find a way out of this. Might be there for a while, but he's going to get out. He truly thinks that based on the phone calls. He's a narcissist, so he's never going to take responsibility for what he did. He's always going to blame everybody else and use that as a way to get out of it because that's what narcissists do. If you've been around narcissistic people, no matter how guilty they are, they'll never take accountability and they'll always put it out on everyone else and do things to try and make other people feel guilty. Even in a situation like this where you have almost no power to do it, they'll do it in any little way they can. And I think that's what you're seeing with Wade.
has yet to be unsealed.
And it's unverified right now, but according to a Reddit post, which is alleged to have had the state attorney's response, again, these documents are supposed to be sealed, but it seems to focus on the recorded phone calls between Jesse Tahanika there, and Wade Wilson and how they were released. What's your reaction to that allegedly being kind of the focus of the civil lawsuit?
So again, it all depends on the context of how these phone calls were obtained and released. The reality is all jail phone calls are recorded.
From what I know, the phone calls were all released through Freedom of Information Act requests. So they're all recorded, and people phone calls from prison are just doing requests to have them released. And with the sunshine laws in Florida, that's how it works. It's all public record. So not much you can do about that, Wade. Sorry, bud.
Anytime you call someone in custody, the first message is, this call is being recorded. So there's no question as to the fact that you have notice that this call is being recorded, meaning someone is going to listen to whatever it is you say on the call. So if this is within the context of jail phone calls, he doesn't have a leg to
He's really
stand
doing
on
this.
because anything you say
The
in
tape.
those recordings are fair game and can be used as evidence against you in your case in chief. When I was a prosecutor, listen, it's a painful thing, but you listen to all the jail calls having to do with
Did
a
y'all
particular
hold on? Did y'all see his lawyers? So look, he's talking to his lawyer. Look at the way his lawyer looks at him. Like, what the fuck are you talking? Look at his lawyer's face. All right, look.
listen, it's a
He's
painful
talking. He's
thing,
talking.
but
Look at his
you
face.
listen to all the jail calls having to do with a particular person that's in custody in the hopes that they actually revealed something. Now, granted, you cannot listen to anything that is attorney-client privilege. So if there's any indication that the person in custody is speaking to their legal counsel, you have to immediately hang up. You cannot use that because, again, it's protected by attorney-client privilege. But outside of that, if Wade were to, the defendant Wade Wilson were to, make some kind of admission to the other person that is mentioned in this lawsuit, it's fair game. So if that's the angle he's trying to go, I don't see that as being successful.
And why do you think that the civil lawsuit does remain confidential and remain sealed right now?
I'm not entirely clear as to why it's being sealed. I don't know if there's some other sensitive information that's involved or other people that have not been charged with crimes or somehow being named as either witnesses or something along those lines. But it just adds to that air of mystery as to what is this really all about.
And how common is it for inmates, especially death row inmates, to file complaints, civil complaints against the sheriff's office and state attorney's office? Have you ever seen something like this before?
I have. It's not uncommon, but what's uncommon is the timing because of the fact that he just got sentenced and he has not exhausted his appeals process. He hasn't even filed his first appeal, to my understanding. They're, of course, researching and getting things ready, but they have not, in fact, filed their first appeal as of yet. So to me, it's just a little strange that you would now try to get this civil relief, and again, you're not asking for money, you're asking for injunctive relief. So that's either somehow getting the case dropped against you or dismissed, which I don't necessarily see that as an option, or to stay your execution, which again is nowhere near scheduled because you have to go through the entire appeals process. So I am very, very curious to see what else is being set forth in this complaint because this is definitely strange again in terms of timing and their request of what kind of relief they're looking for.
I do want to kind of ask this question to you. It's been kind of interesting seeing this amount of supporters for Wade Wilson, who is convicted of one double murder, but this heinous, horrific crime against these two victims, these two women here back in October of 2019. What are your thoughts on kind of his appeal to women specifically who have either written him love letters or supported him and not wanting to see him, one either behind bars or two getting the death penalty?
Well, listen, there's the saying of there's a pot for every lid.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't see what even remotely is appealing about him. I suppose if you have a Joker fetish, maybe that could be the reason, but I'm not seeing what.
She might have just called it people got a Joker fetish. People like that movie too much. They want the closest thing. What's his name? Joaquin Phoenix. Whatever his name is. The closest thing you could get. Joker fetish.
Exactly is appealing here. Now, this is not an unusual phenomenon. We saw it with Ted Bundy. We saw it with the Menendez brothers. Uh, I think even maybe Jeffrey Dahmer got some fan mail too. Like there's this weird fascination with serial killers, and I'm not quite sure why any woman in her right mind would find him attractive because not only is he just not attractive and has a lot of tattoos. Not that tattoos in and of itself are a problem, but just the facial tattoos and the types of tattoos. And secondly, the fact that he has a
You don't gotta hold back. His tattoos are awful. Okay, we all know it. He's got a swastika on his face. He's got stitched lips, but he never shuts up. He's got whatever the hell this ugly thing is. bro. You got it's off. Whatever this
Aligned
horrible.
with a very violent, racist prison gang, the Aryan Brotherhood. I mean, there's layers and layers of like, there is nothing nice or interesting or attractive about this man. And more importantly, he violated women. So if you know that's what he was charged with, I'm not quite seeing how that equates to some sort of attraction. I guess there's some lonely people in this world. I don't know, but that this is it defies logic to me. There is a debate about the death penalty in this country and whether or not it should be abolished nationwide, or if it's actually a deterrent. And there's reasonable arguments to be made on both sides of that, right? So I could see someone, maybe because they're religious or they just don't believe in the death penalty for whatever reason, still wanting to have some sort of contact with him, saying, hey, I acknowledge what you did is wrong, but I think your punishment should be life in prison versus the death penalty. That's
Yeah, that's sort of like my opinion. Like, I can't be pro the death penalty because I just don't believe that's like a choice for humans to make. I also feel that you want to take the God thing out of it. I do think it's God's choice when you're supposed to go. But if you want to take that out of it, moreover, a lot of the people that get the death penalty, although they did do wrong, it's the problems in our society that's created a lot of these problems and so many people to go over the edge. The lack of strong foundations and community and all that type of stuff. So I have a hard time letting the people who messed all that stuff up for so long and caused so much mental health issues being able to just kill you when the product of their neglect comes out. Now, you still have to be responsible for your actions, but at the same time, the people who we elect to run a society have responsibility as well. So that's just my opinion on the death penalty. Listen, if you if you I don't have a daughter, I have a son, but knock on wood, if you killed my daughter, I would kill you. Right? But I almost feel like that's my duty as a man, right? I just don't know about government having I really don't trust the government with things like this, right? I just don't find they've done a good job with mental health and stuff like that. And I don't know if they care about it that much. They say they do. I don't think they do.
reasonable to me. But in terms of, oh my gosh, you're so attractive, therefore you shouldn't die or you shouldn't be in prison, even though you violently, brutalized and murdered two women and also assaulted your own girlfriend. There's nothing here where the math is mathing for me. So people are just interesting.
And I know you had
Facts.
mentioned before that you don't think the civil lawsuit will be successful for the plaintiffs, but where do you think it's going to go from here?
So I think, first of all, I'm hoping that it's unsealed at some point in time so we can get a better idea of what the defendant is alleging and what evidence he purportedly is going to put forth to substantiate his claims. So I believe that it's going to start to wind its way through the civil system. It's possible that it could end up being dismissed if it's a suit without merit. Or if the judge looks at all the totality of the evidence that the defendant seeks to introduce in a civil trial, and he's like, there's just no way a jury is that there's a question for the jury, the judge can then turn around and dismiss it. So any of those things are possible. So we're just going to have to wait and see as it moves its way through the process and go from there. But I do think, based again on what's publicly available and the little nuggets we've heard from different outlets, I don't really see a path to success for that. And I think it was premature.
All right. Well, Melba Pearson, I appreciate your insight as always. Before I sign you off, anything else you'd like to add?
Only just to continue to center the families who have been so deeply impacted by what happened. His ex girlfriend, who is still coping with possibly survivor's guilt after surviving the encounter with him and sadly seeing another woman murdered after her encounter with him. So those are the folks that we need to be thinking about and uplifting in our thoughts.
Facts.
All right. Melba, again, thank you so much for your time today. I always appreciate it.
Thank you.
So Wade Wilson did it. He filed a lawsuit. Shout out to Law and Crime for bringing that to us. I want to know what everyone's opinion is. What's going to happen with the Wade Wilson suit? Is it going to be thrown out? Does he have a case? Will he get off death row? It's possible he gets off death row. It's very possible. Will he ever get out of prison? Anyone think he will? I don't think he will. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know everything. As far as it goes, my condolences to the families. Prayers for them. This is just a horrible situation. And like I said, this just comes down to narcissism and all the stuff I explained before. Wade's just delusional and a narcissist and going to blame everybody but himself. And he wants all this sympathy but wants to have no sympathy for anyone else. So I don't really think he deserves any. I think he needs to change his tune and, be a little bit more remorseful for what he did. He put himself into a position, even if he had a mental break, snapped and lost control. You took drugs that you thought were bad. You did that. You put yourself in a position. You got to have some accountability for that. Anyways, it's been another reaction video. I hope y'all like that. I got a bunch of these coming. I've been releasing a bunch over here, with Pino. If you want to check out my other show, you can just write P-N-O on YouTube. Pop in over here. We got our lives right here. We had to delete a bunch of them, but, we got our lives. We do a couple of those a week sometimes. We got our videos. We've been doing a lot of reactions, and, we got them shorts. We got interviews. We got all kinds of stuff. Got my channel. I post over at Pino's. I also, for those of you that don't know, right here is a hip-hop network out of Toronto, Canada that I work for. So you can also find some good content over here. You want to find anything hip-hop or anything Canadian hip-hop on top of that, this is your source. A lot of good content over here. Shout out to my man Friday. Shout out to Dusty. Shout out to DJ Sar. Shout out to everybody there, Anyways, hope y'all are blessed. Have a great day. Stay safe. Quade Wilson. Peace out.